was struggling. I was going to the VA all the time trying to, figure out what the heck was going on, and they're like, oh, you got PTSD. And it's like, okay, well, that's great. But like, how do I actually get past this? And how do I actually like reintegrate back into a civilian life? And it was music that actually did that for me. And it was kind of in a roundabout way.
What's up, everybody? It's a Talk About It podcast. I'm Lauren Fulmer.
I'm Victor Dantas.
And today we're sitting down with Mr. John Taylor. John, how are you, sir?
Not too bad for Wednesday,
Yeah. No, we appreciate you coming. Driving. Where'd you drive from?
I live in Cambridge.
Cambridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little less than an hour.
Yeah, not too bad. Well, I appreciate you making that commute.
Totally.
And looking forward to chatting with you a little bit here over the next 40 minutes to an hour. But
sure.
Why don't you start off, just kind of tell us about yourself. What's your story, John?
Well, I did graduate from Monmouth College, so it's kind of a trip to be back in Monmouth again.
That's like the third or fourth time you've had just randomly have a guest, and you're like, I went to Monmouth College.
I did, yeah.
So that's kind of random. That's
I did.
Cool.
It was great. It was a good experience.
Nice.
Real good experience. But yeah, I live in Cambridge now, and I probably the thing most people know me for is music. I've been hosting concerts for about 10 years now. Started out doing it at our house there in Cambridge, and then kind of things have evolved over time with it, So I've got a venue in Bishop Hill Creative Commons, indoor space. It's also an art cooperative, so we've got local artists that have their work in there. They also run the shop, so during the day it's open. People can come in and see the different things that the artists have created and, buy them if they want to. But that's my indoor space. I also do concerts in Galva in the summertime. It's a 10-week concert series. It's totally free. I got a grant to do that through the Levitt Foundation. It's called the Levitt Amp Galva Music Series.
Yeah, I'm very familiar. I've been going for the last 2 years. I don't know how long. How many years has that been going?
Started in 2018. I guess this will be our 6th year. Yeah, not counting 2020.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, this will be our 6th year. We've got at least one more year guaranteed with the grant, and then after that, we'll see what happens. But we've got this year and next year for sure guaranteed with funding and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just I'm involved with other stuff too. I've got 3 kids, so that obviously keeps me pretty busy too. But
right.
Yeah,
you stay pretty active in the community and different events. I'm sure, especially so the place in Bishop Hill.
Yeah,
you own that. That's your indoor, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then the last couple of years, I've been going to the Galva Music Festival, that 10-week thing. And my daughter, she's 12. She's actually been a vendor. She sets up and sells, she makes all these bracelets and earrings and necklaces and things like that. KJ Fashion, that's the name of her stuff.
Awesome.
But anyways, and we go every Sunday, and I just love the entire event. I mean, like you said, for one, it's free.
Totally free.
It's family fun. You can bring blanket, lawn chair, you can bring a cooler, food trucks all set up. Different vendors selling stuff from brownies and desserts to like bracelets, and then you have usually each week is there like a different organization that's kind of there?
Yep. We try to get a different organization every week, a nonprofit or a church or something. Just another way to kind of
Did you say they have brownies?
I'll
go there.
The sweet. I can't think of the people who do the sweets, but holy smokes, man.
Yeah, Special Needs Bakery.
Is that what it is?
Uh-huh. So they have a very cool story there also. You should bring them
probably
on
have
here.
them on.
Yeah.
They should bring treats, dude.
Yeah, that's a perfect idea.
And what's funny, I say the event is free, and my daughter set up as a vendor, and I bet I drop $50 on food trucks and the sweets and every week. I can't help it.
What type of music do you play?
Everything. Oh well, did I play or
that you play?
I play personally. Yeah, so I do have a band, and it's like rock music. We also have like kind of a side project at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Where we do Christmas, just all Christmas stuff.
Okay.
But it's mainly rock.
What instruments do you play? Can you play
bass, guitar?
Bass? So you play everything
and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
I want to say did you start off with like a trombone or?
I did actually. Yeah, I did. That's a really weird thing because I didn't stick with it at all.
No.
Like my mom was. She was like, she didn't want to shell out the money for drums, and like we were able to get a cheap trombone, and like so I did it for a couple of years, and I was like, I was never really into it. It never really excited me much. I always wanted to, play like loud instruments, like
Like the drums.
or like guitar, electric guitar or whatever. And so when I was like 11, 12, I had some friends who they said, "Hey, we need a bass player in our band," and I didn't know how to play bass, but my friend, his dad was in a band, and he had all sorts of gear and stuff. And he had an extra guitar, and they said, we'll just teach you. And so I just kind of learned from them, taught myself how to play, and I've been playing music ever since. Mm-hmm. So,
have you ever tried to play guitar?
Yeah, I've tried, but like any instruments with chords, I'm not good.
Stupid hard.
I'm good at percussion instruments like bass, any like drums, not as good, but in Brazil we have samba. I don't know if you ever heard about that. But in samba, there's several different instruments that are based. So boom, 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 boom. I'm good.
Yeah,
you're good.
Chords? No, I'm not.
Yeah, I picked up a guitar 100 times and tried. I mean, it's one of those things. People it's like art. You either got it or you don't.
Yeah.
Or you have a lot of time.
Or right.
That's the
yeah.
And a lot of people learn just by listening to it, right? Like, you don't need to take classes.
I got a nephew that can do that. He can just he can hear a song, he can do it on the piano, he can do it on the guitar, and you're like, holy smokes!
That's crazy.
It's very crazy. I don't understand that. I'm not like that.
I have songs I've heard for 20 years. I still can't even sing the words.
Right.
Like I can I know like the end of like portion, but then the other 40 words you have no idea. Right. I just don't have it.
Yeah. So with your band, you do concerts every weekend or?
No, so I don't play a lot personally. Okay. We probably do maybe half a dozen shows a year, and most of them are benefits.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm playing aside from the Christmas stuff. The Christmas stuff is like 2 weeks of just every day. But yeah, we only play probably half a dozen shows a year or something maybe.
Okay.
But mainly I'm hosting concerts is what I'm doing.
Okay.
So giving a venue or an outlet for other people.
Yeah.
Some already established, some up and coming. Yeah.
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 What type of events happen in your venue? Like, is it?
Mainly music. But we always do with every event we do a potluck beforehand.
Okay.
So people bring food, and we come and share food, have some food, some drinks, whatever. Okay. Before the show, and then the show starts, and it's artists from all over the world. I mean, it's all different types of music. All the shows are all ages. You can bring your kids. You can whatever. Anyone's welcome to come. Mm-hmm. And we just take donations, and that's how the artists get paid.
And you do it at your that's what you're doing at your place, right?
Yeah. So like during like the wintertime, we're inside. We're in Bishop Hill at the venue over there, and then in the summertime we do them outside. And there's a couple different places. We do the outdoor stuff at our house, plus that park in Galva, and then there's also a stage that we got built in Cambridge, and we do some shows there as well. In the park, so so there's more options for outdoor concerts. But
what's the process, John, of lining up? I mean, whether it's the Galva one, like the Galva one, I'm familiar with. You're getting these people; they're from all over the country. I'm guessing they're touring, from the East Coast to the West Coast, or vice versa. Yeah. And while you're coming through, would you mind stopping at Galva and playing? Is that and then how are you finding these people?
How do you market it?
Yeah. So. Most of the booking that I do, so I probably do like 80, 90 shows a year. And with that, I would say probably, aside from I don't know. Almost all of the acts that I end up booking contact me first, usually. I mean, it's almost all of them just contact me and say, hey, I'd like to come. And then we start looking at dates and we try to figure that out. I do sometimes have to go out and actually try to find specific types of acts, especially for the Galva concerts. I do have some requirements with the grant that we have to book basically kind of a balance between male and female acts. And then they also don't want you to have, all the same style of music. So
Right.
we try to mix up the styles and the genres and stuff. And so there's sometimes where I have to, be more intentional about who it is I'm asking to come. But mainly the artists are asking to come and play here. That's usually how it happens. And that really is just more of a word of mouth type thing where an artist will come and then they'll tell their friends, hey, I had a good time. You should,
Hit this
you should
guy
consider,
up.
you should consider coming and making a stop here too. And that's really how that has kind of just evolved and grown over time.
One thing that's so
Yeah.
cool about music is, I mean, like at the Galva, there's people in their 70s.
Yeah.
There's people in their, 8-year-olds and 6-year-olds and, 40-year-olds.
Yeah.
And the thing that's so cool about music, for the most part, you're going to have some engagement. Like for me, I love all types of music except for the like, I don't know what that's even called, like heavy death metal or something.
Right.
I don't, but that's the only stuff I'm like, can you please turn that off? Other than that, like
Yeah.
any music, I feel like you can turn music on, whatever country you're in,
Yeah.
whatever age group, and people
Yep.
can kind of, relate and have a vibe. And, I don't know.
Definitely.
That's the cool part about it, music in itself.
It's very cool, and like, there's been times where I'm like, I kind of question whether something will go over well. Like we've had a couple different rap and hip hop groups in Galva, and they've actually been very well received. And I would have never guessed, I would have never guessed it, but it has a lot to do with the act too. Depending on the way they present themselves, their message, and their whole performance. And so you do have to kind of be careful with that, I think, because there's definitely some acts that are going to only appeal to a certain group of people probably, but I think good music is universal. It doesn't matter what age you are, how much money you make, what you do for a living, what color your skin is. It doesn't matter, like where you're from. Like good music is just good music,
Right.
And it is very cool, and that it's one of the coolest things is just seeing all of those different people coming together. You think of places in your life where that is possible, where there's just a group of people who are just coming together just to have a good time, and it's like a wide range of people. It's like it's pretty cool to see that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always been impressed, like the last few years, going to this Galva event. And like, we're going to Galva? I mean, I don't know how many people live. Nothing bad about Galva. It's just small.
2,500 people or so.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so they got something cool going. And I mean, the first time I was there, I was like, this is incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah. And you're bringing people together. Good, solid community event. And then, like it's the pull of some of the musicians and artists that are there. I go and look them up, and I'm like, oh, this is they're not a small time gig at all.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And then to talk about one of them you mentioned, or it just came to my mind, and it was last year. There was like a very electric live group from L.A. They were like very colorful and like outfits, and I was like, man, I wonder how this is going to fit here in Galva.
Right, yeah.
And they killed it,
Totally.
But yeah, that goes to say, I mean, just like you said, it doesn't matter as long as if it's good music and good entertainment. People are going to stick around.
So people come from that far, like from LA, from other states.
Yeah, other countries. Yeah, other countries too. In fact, I would say, I actually looked at last year all the concerts that I booked, and it was like about between 25 and 30% of them were from other countries. So it's a lot of international stuff. I mean, I've actually got a group coming in next week. I'm partnering with the Orpheum Theatre in Galesburg. We're going to do a show with a group from Scotland and a group from Canada for that show. But I mean, I've got groups coming in from all over the place: Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia.
That's crazy.
All over the U.S.
So how did that? I mean, surely I know you said they reach out to you, but there's no way that just started. That them reaching out to you. You clearly had to have had something in place that started to grow, and then like you said, once these artists start having a good time, they tell other artists, right? Like so how did it? It had to have some sort of ground where you started taking these steps. Can you
Yeah.
shine any light on that or what that looked
Yeah,
like?
yeah. So when I first started, like I said, we were just doing it all at our house, and there was there's a website called Concerts in Your Home, and basically it's like a place where you can connect with artists who are looking to play house concerts. And so I started out on there, and you just basically just make a profile, and then you just say you're willing to host, certain genres, or you can kind of customize your profile or whatever. And so I had their profile on there, and I did that for just a short time because I was getting so many messages from people that were wanting to come and play, and then from that point it just kind of took off to where it's just like, yeah, I probably get, I don't know, 40 emails a day, and then phone calls and messages and stuff from groups that want, or that are looking to come.
Yeah, their agents or
their agents
whoever.
and stuff. Yeah,
Holy
exactly.
smokes. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's how it kind of got started originally, but I mean, I'm not active on the site anymore.
Right. You don't need to
I
be.
don't need to be. It doesn't, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
John, what's you had mentioned too the grant. This is the last year of the grant for Galva.
Yeah.
What?
Well, no, to this year and next year.
Oh,
But yes,
good. Okay,
yeah,
so 2 more years. Theoretically, you're 24 or 25.
Yeah, yeah.
What is that process like? Going and finding out what grants are available, applying for them. That had to be a learning curve.
Yeah, kind of. I kind of have a funny story about it. I'll try to keep it short. But I was I grew up when I was growing up. I was really interested in computers, and actually, that's what I got my bachelor's degree in was computer science. And anyway, I was working for libraries, and just like as a contractor as a teenager, I was just like contracting myself out to do mainly networking and like server setup for these libraries because at that point in time the internet was just coming out, and so I was like doing that as like a teenager. I was like 16, 17, starting out doing that. And anyway, I did that for about 10, 15 years, and just off and on. It was just something I was kind of doing on the side. Anyway, in doing that, a lot of these libraries didn't have a lot of money, and they needed a lot of infrastructure to be able to support what they wanted to do, especially with the internet just coming online. They needed computers and they needed networking gear and all this stuff. And I had a library director one time ask me if I had ever written a grant, and I hadn't at that point. And she said, well, would you be willing to try to get some money? And I said, sure, I'll try it. And so then one thing led to another. We wrote some grants, and I got some money for some of these libraries, and then I started doing it for other libraries, and it just kind of, I was doing that, here and there, like I said, for about 10, 15 years. And then I kind of got busy with other stuff, and just kind of, got away from all the library stuff, and because I was just trying to help them out. I wasn't really, I wasn't trying to that be my main thing. And anyway, I was teaching. I was an instructor at Hamilton Technical College.
Quad Cities?
Yeah, now it's Orion. But
Teaching IT?
Yeah, I was teaching them digital electronics, and so I was teaching their night classes, and I started a master's program while I was there in instructional design technology, thinking that I might use that in the classroom. The stuff that I learned through that program. And anyway, I was doing that, and they were jacking around with the semester schedules, and I got a semester off. And during that time off, like my second child was about to be born, and I was just like, I don't really feel like going back. Like, I really enjoyed teaching, but I was also working full time. I had a couple businesses and other stuff going on. I'm like, I just really enjoy being home at night, And so I went ahead and continued doing the master's program, and got all the way through. Basically, like you have to fill out a graduation plan, and with that, you basically say, here are the classes I'm going to take, and then your advisor signs off on all that. And I did all that. I got the plan signed off on. I completed my final project, my thesis. everything was done, and like a couple months went by after that, and I didn't ever get anything in, like a diploma in the mail or anything, because I didn't go to graduation. I'm like, who cares,
Mm-hmm. I did the same.
I didn't go. Or I'm like, I don't care, So anyway, a couple months go by, and I'm like, it's really weird that I don't have a diploma or something, And so I called the registrar, and she looks at the transcripts, and she's like, well, you didn't have enough credits to graduate. I'm like, that's pretty weird. Like, I've got this graduation plan, and I did exactly what's on the graduation plan, and like, it's all signed off on. And she's like, no, well, one of those classes you took didn't count towards your degree. And so I'm like, well, that's not right, So anyway, I went back and forth with the school for about 2 years, because I was like, I'm not, just on principle alone, I'm not going to go back and give them any more of my time or money. Like, I just can't. Like, on principle, I just couldn't do it, because I'm like, if this happened to me, it could happen to someone else, and I wanted that to be fixed before I decided to go back. And so it took about 2 years, and I was trying the whole time to talk to different people. Finally, after about 2 years, the president of the school finally decided to listen to me, because he just kind of kept blowing me off. He's like, oh, you're upset that you didn't graduate. Like, no, I'm not really. Like, I know, and that's not the point. Like, I just want to see this change to where, you can't have someone sign off on a graduation plan saying that it's good if it's not good. Mm-hmm. And someone else, because I talked to some other students, and there was other students that were like in that same boat that I was, that they had their graduation plan signed off on, and it turned out that they took classes that didn't count towards their degree, so on and so forth. So anyway, after 2 years, basically, finally, he apologized to me and admitted that they'd made a mistake, and said that they were going to make changes. And I'm like, cool, I'll go back and take this final class and just get this degree done. Well, I was looking through the catalog trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I saw there was a grant writing class, and I'm like, man, this is going to be an easy A, So I signed up for it, and for the class, they had a thing where the final project was basically you had to find a grant opportunity and then put together an application for it. And so I just went to Google and I typed in music series grant, and the Levitt Foundation's grant was one of the first things that popped up. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I did it all for the assignment, and I turned it in, got an A, the class was done. And then my wife was like, you should really pursue that. You've already done all the work,
right.
You should pursue it. And so I'm like, man, I probably should, right? So anyway, I just kind of started shopping around for some nonprofits to partner with, because I didn't have a nonprofit at the time. And so anyway, found the Galva Arts Council, and they were all on board. I pitched the idea to them; they were all on board. I talked to the city, and they were all on board. And everyone just kind of came together and was like, okay, yeah, this could actually happen. And so we submit the proposal. Everything happened, just one thing led to another, and next thing we know, we've got the grant. And for the first couple of years, we had to apply every year to get the grant again. This last time, it's been a 3-year grant. So, like I said, we're on the second year of the 3 years right now. And since then, I've done a lot of grant writing since then. I've gone on to start a nonprofit and doing a lot of grant writing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you have your nonprofit now?
I do, yeah. It's called Crossroads Cultural Connections. And so, yeah, yeah, the shirt. And essentially, what we're doing with the nonprofit is not only the concerts, but we're also bringing these artists into schools throughout the area.
Okay.
For assemblies and workshops and things like that.
Okay.
That's a big piece of, I think it's really important to be able to involve the youth with this, because I notice, even though all the shows that we do are all ages, family friendly, a lot of times I think parents are either hesitant or maybe they don't have the means or whatever to bring their children to a show or grandchildren or whatever it might be. And so I thought, I remember back when I was in school, and just the very few times we had any sort of an assembly, like I still remember all of those, you know. I just remember how impactful all of those were. And so, yeah, to me, it's an important thing to be able to bring these artists into the schools, especially with these international artists. I think it's really cool for them to meet people from other parts of the world, you know, hear about their culture, see their instruments, you know, learn a little bit about their music and that sort of thing. And so,
even just to hear people talk differently and look differently, you know, and especially music. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you still, as part of the Crossroads Cultural Connections, will you write grants for some? Is that something they could hire you to do, or is that not?
Yeah, I would help someone write grants. Yeah, I've done some workshops and stuff to help people.
Interesting.
Learn.
Are there any grants for like broke podcasts?
Well, let's talk. We'll see. I don't know. It's totally possible.
But here's something that you can do. Google. I don't know if you've heard Google for nonprofits. Every nonprofit, every 501c3, that it's not a governmental agency or organization, and it's not educational either, qualifies for $10,000 free on Google per month.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Here at Clear Profits, we help a lot of nonprofits. Here at Clear Profits to apply for that grant, and most of them get approved. We're talking about $10,000 towards Google ads per month.
Yeah, we're free. Approved, and I've got like a couple ads running, but I would love to do more.
If you need our help to manage our ads, we help several nonprofits on.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yep.
And then let's look into that podcast.
Let's look into that.
Yeah, it needs to be a 501c3. If you want to become one,
we'll form it. I don't know. You know more about that than me, man.
But it's a great opportunity for nonprofits. A lot of them are using this grant.
That's awesome. What is it, John, about music? Do you think even at a young age? I know you kind of got into playing instruments and stuff, but like.
Yeah.
Was there always something you felt, you know, connected with music, and to especially now to have it basically kind of turn into a job, if you will? Or?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different sides to it. You know, as far as performing, it's a great outlet and a great way to express yourself, and a great way to connect with other people. You know, and I've always loved that. I'll probably always make music of some sort because of that. But as far as like wanting to host concerts, you know, I don't know how that, you know, it just kind of developed over time. It was one of those things where, well, and I guess maybe I'll back up a little bit. So I was in the military, and I'd always been kind of involved with music, you know, from a young age, but when I was deployed with the military, spent a year in Iraq in 2004, 2005. Came home, and when I came home, I was really struggling to reintegrate back into civilian life. I was like really just, you know, it was a really tough time. Just kind of going from being in a combat zone to coming home and being a civilian, and like, you know, the things that I cared about were like so different than what they were when I left, you know, and just I had a completely different perspective on life after that. And so I was really struggling just to like, not only just reconnect with those people that I already knew, you know, my friends and family, but just connecting with people as a whole, you know, in general was really, really tough for me. And I was struggling. I was going to the VA all the time trying to, you know, figure out what the heck was going on, you know, and they're like, oh, you got PTSD. And it's like, okay, well, that's great. But like, how do I actually get past this? And how do I actually like reintegrate back into a civilian life? And it was music that actually did that for me. And it was kind of in a roundabout way. For years I was going, you know, to the VA, and they basically, you know, they were trying everything that they had. And one day there was a doctor, and she said to me, you know what, you've tried everything. I don't have anything else for you to try. And I'm like, okay, you know, like, great, you know, like, you know, it's like, okay, so, you know, what do we do from here? And so I went home, and I'm like, you know what, like, if that's it, if I've done everything that they have to offer, And I did other things outside the VA too, and just none of it was really like bringing me to a place where I felt comfortable, you know? Like none of the medications really did that. None of any of that stuff, the talk therapy, the counseling, none of it really moved me in a direction to where I was really feeling comfortable being a civilian, you know? And so I went home and I'm like, you know what? Because I was just miserable. I was just, you know, very miserable at that point in time. And I thought, you know, if I'm going to be miserable, I'm at least going to just try to have as much fun as I can. And so I just decided from that point forward that that's what my focus was going to be, was just, I wasn't going to continue searching for some sort of a solution to my problems. I was just going to try to have fun, right? And so just in a roundabout way, it all kind of came together for me. I decided, you know, I'd always loved music, so I just started going to concerts. And I would go, you know, 3, 4, 5 times a week. And I would just go by myself. I didn't really have a lot of people I was close with at the time. And so I would just go and I would show up. And little by little, you know, I started to see the same people over and over and over again. And, you know, of course, if you do that, you're going to start up a conversation. You know, you're going to share some pizza or some beers or whatever. And like all of a sudden, I just found myself being part of this community. And like just kind of in a roundabout way, everything just started to come together for me again. And I started to be able to connect with people just in general and feeling, you know, much better about the whole situation. And all those things that I was trying to find solutions for, like it was all right there. Yeah. You know, and really what I was missing, and now looking back, you know, the thing that was really bothering me was I was just wanting to connect with people. You know, I'd spent a year in Iraq and I got really close to all of those guys that I served with, you know, and to go from being in that environment where you're surrounded by people that you love and that who love you and you're really connected with, to coming home and feeling like you can't relate to people, and it was a tough situation. And so that was really my gateway back into normal life, really. Yeah. And so in doing that, I realized that there's a lot of people who, you know, you don't necessarily have to go to war to experience something like that, but who struggle with connecting with other people and just like feeling like they have a place, feeling like they have a purpose. And I realized in doing that music, it can be that thing. And, you know, it can also be fun too, because that was really my original intent. Was I was just like, you know, I'm just going to enjoy, you know, because I was miserable up to that point. And I was like, you know, I want to focus on having fun and focus on doing things that I enjoy. And so,
yeah. That might be one of the coolest stories I've ever heard. And I'm not blowing smoke, man. Oh. That is seriously incredible.
Well, thanks, man.
It reminds me, we've talked about stuff when you just do what's right and you just have fun and you don't worry about said end goal, you know. It's amazing the stuff and the opportunity and the friends and the people that find you. It's really crazy.
It really is. And that's what happened to me. Like I said, I was just like in this point of desperation. I'm like, you know, I'm giving up. I stopped taking all the medication. I stopped going to all my appointments. And I was just like, I'm just going to start spending my time doing things I love. And so that it would just, you know, it seems so simple and so intuitive, but it's like, I don't know. I was stuck in that system where like, I was expecting someone to give me something and that to fix all my problems. And it's like, well, no, that, you know, looking back, it's like, no, that would have never worked. But
I think so much of that, John, is, I mean, we grow up with constant, like, well, what are you going to do? You know, what are you going to do when you grow up? What are you going to do with your life? What are you going to, and like you grow up with this idea that you're supposed to have it all figured out, you know? And like what you see, I mean, I'm 42. I just started a new job. 6 months ago, you know? I mean, so you talk to these 18-year-old, 20, 22, and, you know, they're by 25, they still don't know what they're doing, and they think there's something wrong with them. Like, I'm getting left behind, or I'm supposed to have all this figured out, and it's like, there's 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds that don't got it figured out, and that's okay, you know? Right. That's crazy, man.
With post-traumatic disorder, PTSD, I know what it is, But like, would you be able to describe a little bit of the feeling and what caused you to have that?
Yeah.
Just so our audience understands more how the psychology after you come back from serving, how your mind looks like.
Yeah. So I've thought about it a lot because I like I said, I went through all of the different treatments for it, and like I think that some of them probably do have value for some people, but I think in general, the thing with post-traumatic stress is if you have an experience that is like outside of the normal experience for a person, that can, and it doesn't have to be war, it could be anything,
Right?
It could be anything, but like if you have an experience that's like outside the normal experience for a person, that can create this barrier in your mind. It's not real, obviously, but it can create this barrier in your mind that makes you feel like you are separate from other people, that you maybe someone can't relate to you or you can't relate to them. And in that comes the fear, the anxiety, all of the things that are, symptoms of PTSD. And for me, like I said, the way back to kind of overcoming that was just finding a way to be able to reconnect with people. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, and it's very easy, but you get in these patterns where you just think and ruminate on thoughts, and it's like it does you no good, because you're not going to outthink your way. What I mean? Like if it was that easy, everyone would be able to just move past it. But it really, to me, I believe it comes down to having an experience that is something different than the normal person. And then from there, that's where you start running into issues where it's like, it's really hard to try to explain to someone what war is like, and because of that, it is very, you don't want to talk about it, because you don't want to be misunderstood. And then all of a sudden, one thing leads to another, and you're just kind of like closing off, and you don't want to talk to anyone about anything, that sort of thing. And I've met a lot of people who, like I said, have not been to war, who have had similar types of experiences where, they've had tragic things happen to them, that they also have the symptoms of PTSD. And like I said, to me, that's really what it is. For me, I was, obviously I was at war, and there was a lot of like daily, it was like, your life is at risk, basically. And you're going through a series of traumatic events over a period of time, and that that kind of, for me, what it did was just kind of change my perspective on life, as far as like what's actually important to me. And it really comes down to people. Those people that I was with at that point in time were the most important thing to me, because I wanted them to live, and they wanted me to also stay alive. And really everything else outside of that, material things, other things that maybe, might seem like a big deal, really weren't. That was really the only thing that mattered to me, were those people that I was there with at that point in time. Because I didn't know if I was going home. I didn't,
Right.
And so like, there was people that I cared about at home as well, but it's like, I couldn't really think about that.
Well, how can you? They can't do anything for you.
No one, right.
I mean, I've never been in a situation. I have family. My own brother was over there. But yeah, I mean, I can't wrap my head around, that environment. And then having to come back home to it too, to like, everything's just supposed to act like it's okay.
It's normal. And like, it was like I said, that transition was very hard for me, because even just family members felt like strangers to me. I just felt like I had so many experiences that that were different, that I just couldn't relate to them. And I didn't, it wasn't that I didn't want to talk about the things that I had gone through, but every time I tried to, it was like, I realized that there was no way for me to express those experiences in a way that they could actually understand what I was trying to say. And so that's where, like I said, that's where the PTSD starts. It's like you have these things that you want to share and you want to connect with people over because they're a big part of who you are. Those experiences become part of you. It's like you really can't go back after your perspective changes.
Right.
It's really hard, like you really can't go backwards. And so, yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Sure.
Yeah.
A lot of people suffer from that, right? Like a lot of people become homeless.
Absolutely. And like you said, not even just from war. I mean, it could be tragic anything. Car accidents, sexual abuse. I mean, it could be a wide variety of things.
Definitely.
One thing I just think it's dawned on me just as you were sharing your experience, but we sit here, we're back home here safe. I haven't seen my brother forever, my buddies, and they're over there. And when they come home, I'm giving my safe side perspective, like, oh man, I finally get to see my buddy, haven't seen you forever.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you expect like as if the same guy's going to show up.
Right.
But
oh yeah.
the guy you met a year and a half ago, and kicked it with as a child, I'm not that guy anymore, and rightfully so. I've had some experiences that have changed my life. That makes total sense, right? And then let alone to be able to be like, you try to explain something, and you're like, forget it, man, because only my buddies that were there with me are going to really get it. Yeah. So it's a tough thing. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it is very tough. Yeah. So anyway,
but thanks for sharing that stuff with us. I mean,
Absolutely.
Not that we wanted to go digging it back up, but that's
I'm
obviously
happy to
real
talk about
stuff.
it. Yeah.
You sharing your story. I mean, even if one person can turn a light, or
Absolutely.
turn a corner, that's what it's all about.
Definitely.
That's dope, man. Thank you for sharing that, John.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm happy to.
So did you play music what'd you have for music while you were over
there?
I
brought a little student guitar.
You did?
Acoustic guitar. And I had over there. Yeah. It was, it was something. And we play, here and there when we had time. And
right.
Yeah.
So were you at what branch of military?
The National Guard out of Galva.
All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Uh-huh.
Good.
So, like your daily duties, is it like when you're there, like is it shooting all the time, or just there's time for you to relax too?
I'm kind of. I mean, it's like, a typical day would be like a 12-hour shift, but then with that 12-hour shift would be prep time and then like the teardown time too. So normally it's probably about 14 hours a day you're working, and then depending on like the schedules, you might be on a swing shift where it's like you work 14 hours, you've got 10 hours off, and then you work another shift. It might be like that, or you might be where you start the next day, depending on how it all kind of played out. But and really the time 12 hours is like more of a suggestion. Like obviously you're not going to like stop if you're in the middle of like a firefight or something. Like it's like it's like turn. There's many times where it's like you're in the middle of something and it's like, okay, well, we're gonna be here for a while. And there's a couple of periods of time where it was like days where we were like actively engaged and like everyone was involved and no one was getting sleep basically. So, I mean, that's kind of an idea of the schedules. I mean, you never really had any downtime. There was obviously time to sleep here and there, but even then, like you could be called up at any time.
Right.
If someone needed you to do something, you just had to go do it. Essentially, what we were doing combat patrols. So it's kind of the way I would describe it is kind of like a police officer, how they go out and they just kind of patrol around. So essentially we were just out there as a show of force, like, hey, we're here, like, don't do anything stupid. But really that really kind of lends itself to is that you're more like a target at that point. So obviously, you patrol an area enough, the bad guys kind of have an idea of what you're doing, when you're doing it, how you're doing it. And, they start to come up with plans to try to ambush you and that sort of thing. And so, there was a lot of a lot of firefights, car bombs, stuff like that we had to deal with. And was it all day, every day? No, but it could be at any point in time. It could happen at any point in time, especially when you're out on patrol. I mean, you're out there, and it's really hard to imagine, living in America where, we're not in a military occupied country or, but we would be out there with the civilians, on their streets, part of the flow of their traffic. And, as you might imagine, that could get pretty crazy, especially when any of those vehicles could have a bomb in it, or, there could be someone in there with an RPG or small arms or whatever. Yeah, so I mean, the danger was constant, basically, for that entire period of time. Yeah. It wasn't an active, fight all the time, but yeah.
Well, thank you for your service. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And all of our veterans and active military. That's always I gotta salute that for sure. What do you got? Shift gears back to the music and Galva. What are we looking forward to here in 2024? You got a solid lineup. I mean, you don't have to name people by any means, but you got that going. What do you have any other exciting stuff even at your own venue?
Tons of exciting stuff.
Where can we look up your own venue? I didn't even know you had that.
So Crossroads Cultural Connections, the website is xroadscc.org. So the letter X and then roadscc.org.
Okay.
And then if you just click on events, you'll see all the scheduled events there. There's stuff. I mean, like I said, there's this next week we've got a group from Scotland and Canada that are coming to the Orpheum. Then we've got...
They're coming to the Orpheum next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Scaryvore is the name of the group. Really great. Eight-piece band from Scotland. And then Cassie and Maggie from Canada, they're going to open it up from Nova Scotia.
Sweet.
That's great.
That's cool.
Yeah. But there's so many great acts coming up, to be honest with you. We got a bunch of really cool groups from Africa that are coming here in the next month or two.
Now, do you go to all of them?
Yeah, I mean, I do everything. I do everything. I so I book all of the stuff, but then I also, I'm playing host at the concerts. I'm running the sound, running the video.
That's awesome.
Doing whatever,
I see you at Galva. I mean, you're like
I'm there.
Yeah.
So I run sound for Galva. I mean, there's obviously a bunch of other volunteers involved for Galva too, but I'm doing the sound there too. Yeah.
Not to get this twisted too, because I've told people about the 10-week Galva.
Yeah.
Then there's another like Galva.
Oh, the Back Road Music Festival.
I've never been to that. Is that something you're involved?
I'm not involved with that. But
okay.
It's
What is that?
Yeah, it's a great country music festival. This is also their 10th year.
Okay.
It's a one-day event.
But it's big, right?
It's huge.
Yeah, I hear about it all the time. I've never been.
Yep.
Have you been? Yeah.
No. I've never been Galva in general.
Oh wow! Yeah,
we'll get you there this year for the Sunday one. You'll have to. But he's got a son now.
Nice.
The family,
Congratulations, man.
The free family fun is going to start to sink
there
in.
You go. Exactly.
You look for all of that.
You look for all of the free family stuff. Yeah.
Trust me, dude. Yeah. No, I love it. Same with I got 2 kids, and I'm always like, what can we do that's free?
Right.
So and that's a great event there.
Yeah. Cool. Come on out.
Yeah, we'll get Victor out
for
to
sure.
Galva. John, man, thank you so much for coming and joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate your ride, and
definitely, man.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us.
Yeah, it's been great.
John Taylor with Crossroads Cultural Connections, as well as assisting with the Galva Music Festival, I believe it's the whole name of that, right?
11 Amp Galva Music Series.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you get a chance, it's 10 weeks. He'll be coming up here every Sunday in Galva. It's a ball of fun.
It's actually, so this year is actually going to be 11 weeks. Ooh. We're adding a bonus concert.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. Sweet.
So it'll actually be 11 this year. But
all right. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'll be out there every Sunday with my daughter. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll probably announce the lineup. I think April 1st is what we're shooting for.
Cool.
So not too much longer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, John.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank
John
you.
Taylor, it's a Talk About It podcast. I'm Lauren Fulmer.
I'm Victor Dantas.
And you guys have a great rest of your day after you hit subscribe. Thank you for watching this episode of the Talk About It podcast.
I'm Victor Dantas.
I'm Lauren Fulmer.
And we would encourage you guys to subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell. It's going to be right below the video. So you
Hit
guys,
the bell.
so you know when the next episode is up. All
We
right?
appreciate all the support.
Thank you.